Just delighted today to introduce our speaker, Lori Bergen. She is the founding dean of CU's very first new department in 50 years, the new College of Media, Communication, and Information. Lori will be talking about how the college was organized and has evolved to bring new perspectives to the great challenges of our time. She is a nationally recognized leader in teaching, scholarly research, and creative work. Bergen came to CU Boulder from Marquette University, where she was dean of the College of Communication. Before joining academia, Bergen worked for several years as a journalist. I must say, many years ago, I majored and gained a master's in journalism, and I am so excited to hear Lori talk about communication today. Lori.
Oh, well, good afternoon, and thank you, Jancy, for that nice introduction. I have to say, that picture of me was taken like 10 years ago. We have to get a more recent one. You don't realize how much you may have aged in 10 years. But if you were here at Rotary just a few weeks ago, you got to hear from one of my colleagues, a CMCI professor, Casey Fiesler, and I understand she was here and she talked about generative artificial intelligence works and the social and ethical consequences of that technology. And I'm excited to follow her because she is one of my brilliant colleagues. She's got a terrific insight into technology, especially where it overlaps with policy. And in fact, she's one of our founding faculty and a great example of the kind of thought leader that really makes our college unique and in so many ways different from other schools and colleges on campuses like CU Boulder. I just wanted to say one other thing about Casey. I think her work looks at things that were once very different kinds of disciplines, but because of technology and a lot of other changes, they are now increasingly related. So it's my pleasure to be here today and to follow in the footsteps of one of my amazing colleagues. And I want to tell you some things about the college, CMCI, but I first want to just say a little bit more about myself. And I shouldn't have had lunch. I might have to get some water. Maybe Melinda could grab me one. I am not just the dean of the College of Media, Communication, and Information, but I'm the founding dean, and that is such a cool designation. I hope someday there will be a beautiful painting of me on velvet that hangs in the halls somewhere at CU Boulder. But the college is the newest college at CU Boulder, and when we were founded in 2015, it was the first new college in 53 years. So as you might imagine, every day has been an adventure in entrepreneurship as we build an even better student experience, and it's been really amazing to have that opportunity to build a college. Thank you so much. So before I came to Colorado, as Jancy said, I was dean of the College of Communication at Marquette University in Milwaukee. I've lived in Texas. Ooh, that was fun. So, it's always technology, it keeps things interesting. So, but I spent time in Texas 2 times. I was just telling Marty I was there once and I came again. And I spent 16 years at Kansas State University in my home state of Kansas next door. And in those years before that I worked as a journalist, it gave me the impetus to understand how important journalism is in our world. So that work continues to remain very important to me. And I'm currently the chair of the advisory board for Colorado Public Radio, where I'm sure many of you are donors, so let me thank you for supporting the largest journalism organization in our state. And I'm also currently serving as a trustee for the Poynter Institute, which is a global nonprofit that strengthens democracy by improving the relevance, the ethical practice, and the value of journalism. So now I want to tell you a little about CMCI, which is about to celebrate its 10th anniversary, a whole decade of our existence. CMCI was broadly formed around 3 concepts: think, innovate, and create. And we absolutely want our students to become critical thinkers, able to challenge what they hear, to form their own opinions, and of course, to have productive conversations with those whom they disagree. We want them also to be innovative. As a college, we're constantly seeking ways to improve student education and student engagement. And one of the ways we do that is by requiring our students to graduate with a secondary area of study that's unrelated to their major. So this has led to some pretty interesting combinations. You might imagine public relations with atmospheric and oceanic sciences, information science with political science. So by encouraging that curiosity, we've prepared our students for jobs and opportunities that may not have existed when they enrolled in our college at the beginning. So we also offer a lot of hands-on projects where our students can take on agency briefs, they do enterprise-level journalism, or they develop platforms and algorithms that are designed for humans and not for data collection. And of course, we're always encouraging our students to engage in unique research projects on topics such as the legal and ethical implications of AI, in the realm of copyright and social justice. And we also show our students how to identify emerging opportunities that can lead to some really unique career paths. Next, we want them to be creative, and we want students to bring unconventional approaches to solving the really unpredictable problems of our future. We want them to master new tools as they find their voices and to search for ways to share them with the world. And we also want their creative visions to change our world for the better. So those three concepts have really guided our vision for the value that CMCI can offer to the world. You know, yesterday's approaches to journalism and communication and media and advertising and design, they don't really account for how our new technologies, global events, and the evolving market forces that are changing and creating overlaps among all of these disciplines. So in our college, what we've really tried to do is bring an interdisciplinary perspective to both teaching and research, and of course that helps our faculty solve new and emerging problems while they're also helping prepare our students for new kinds of careers. I think one of the best pieces of evidence, the proof of our success so far, has been in just the consistent growth in our size and academic quality of our student body. This encompasses 6 different undergraduate majors with 7 master's degree programs and 6 doctoral degrees. And just this past summer, we combined administrative functions with the university's program in environmental design, which will become our 7th department when it becomes fully part of CMCI in July. And once that takes place, we expect to unlock entirely new research streams around topics like urban design, architecture and sustainable product design. And you can imagine how interesting the virtual built environment in a gaming structure will use the same physics that are used in the built environment, in the real spaces that architects create. So while these might seem like a little bit different from our core areas of focus, we believe design is yet another communication tool and another way to tell a story. So I'm super excited about the opportunity to see how this cross-pollination is going to occur among our environmental design, faculty and staff, and our information science and communication and journalism areas, of course. So in addition to environmental design, sharing all of our values and especially a lot of our hands-on project work, we're looking forward to some really meaningful impact that will follow. For years, environmental design faculty have been running a program that I wanted to tell you just briefly about. It's in Medellin, Colombia, and what they do is they bring local university students and residents together to build a project for the community. Students have built parks, playgrounds, neighborhood spaces. They've designed these things not just in a physical space, but they also create places where the community actually can build the space and come together. So those are exciting developments in a 10-year saga of creating a new college. But our growth really isn't just about adding new departments. It's also happening organically as a result of how we have positioned the college. And a quick look at just our numbers, really good metric, it helps to demonstrate just how desirable a CMCI education has become. We now have the class of 2028 They number 437 new first-year students. We have a total student body size, both undergrad and graduate students, of 2,575. And that's a far cry from when we started 10 years ago, when we had about 1,700 total students. And it doesn't yet reflect the addition of these new students from environmental design, who currently number about 750. So we are quickly growing, and we should warn the business school that we're hot on their heels in terms of how big we are. We've also increased the size of our faculty. They're doing amazing research and creative work that's really changing how we think about a lot of important topics, like artificial intelligence, or the spread of deepfakes, or effective storytelling for environmental crises, or how the internet and technology are shaping democracy. And I think what makes our faculty's work in communication and media studies and journalism and design and technology the most compelling is how, just like in our teaching, our professors are bringing an interdisciplinary lens to their approaches, and they collaborate with experts in related disciplines to ensure that their findings are relevant and actionable, even in challenging times and times of great change. Our college also has a number of centers and labs that help to shape the unique research and creative work that our faculty and students do. They also expose students to new perspectives that teach them about emerging and high-impact career paths. So some of the most interesting, important contributions that our college has made, I think, comes from our centers. They're very outward-facing, and they help to translate the work that our faculty members do as scholars. So for example, we have the Center for Environmental Journalism, and we've had it for many years. They offer an annual fellowship for 5 journalists who come from some of the world's most respected media companies to pursue major environmental reporting projects over a year spent on our campus with all the resources of the university at their disposal. Another one of our incredible centers is the Center for Race, Media, and Technology, where they're exploring how systems of racism and inequality are perpetuated in artificial intelligence, social media, movies, video games. And then we also have the Neuro-D Lab, where faculty and students are studying neurodiversity by re-examining the built environment, everything from the products that we use to the way we use wayfinding on our campuses to help people with disabilities do the things that are really important to them. I could go on and spend a lot more time talking about the unique projects and the insights of CMCI's faculty, but this afternoon I thought I'd just briefly talk about 3 specific people, 3 of our experts, 2 of whom are running some of our newest research labs. And the first is the Sustainability and Storytelling Lab. It's led by Professor Phaedra Pizzulo of our Communication Department. And if you think about it, sustainability is often couched in very scientific and environmental terms. Parts per million of forever chemicals in drinking water, or degrees of temperature increase that will trigger how many feet of sea level will rise. And those scientific standards aren't always clear to the general public, and they may lack the kind of context that's needed to help envision the solutions that we all need in our everyday lives, which means already ambitious sustainability goals that are even harder to realize. And so in her lab, Phaedra seeks to listen to and study and amplify and create stories that create accountability for unsustainable practices while they're also encouraging a sustainable future. So, for instance, in 2015, we all saw a kind of global backlash against the use of single-use plastic straws as a result of what you might remember was a widely shared video of a sea turtle injured by a plastic straw. And I'm sure that many of you also will remember the footage that we have seen of an exhausted polar bear sliding into the ocean because the icebergs that it's trying to rest on are just too small to support it anymore. Well, why those stories resonate so intently, and how the conversation shifts away from those moments toward new cultural phenomena, that's one of the things that Phaedra looks at through her work. And in her classes with her students, they use story mapping tools to assess climate-related messaging, especially on behalf of the state's Department of Public Health and Environment. So that work, it just seeks to better understand if the stories that the state is telling its residents are rich and compelling enough, or if maybe they rely too heavily on data that are esoteric or that lack context for people's day-to-day lives. So one story that she finds really interesting is how to celebrate victories, since so much climate-related news is of the doom and gloom variety. If we don't celebrate the small victories, which is what Phaedra argues, there's nothing to celebrate. And since our relationship with the environment is ongoing and we won't see the kind of decisive victories that are easier to celebrate, we want to tell them in other kinds of stories. So, as you might imagine, this kind of work is bigger than just the communication realm, and Phaedra draws upon faculty expertise and student enthusiasm across the university to study these phenomena. And as we think about the scope of the climate crisis, it's pretty clear that we're going to need to all use different kinds of voices and perspectives to generate solutions. And that's why I'm so optimistic about the work that she's doing. So next, we're going to talk a little bit about something that maybe you've thought about or maybe you haven't, but it is our digital legacy clinic, which is concerned with what happens to your data after you die. Even if you've given this some thought, and most people have not, you might not appreciate the full size of your digital footprint. Beyond things like online banking records, there are all the messages that you send to friends on social media, the texts from loved ones, photos and videos, and so much more. So in fact, the average internet user has nearly 200 online accounts and produces more than 850 gigabytes of data every year. So to help people plan for their digital afterlives, Professor Jed Brubaker looks to the ways in which law schools help people with their legal affairs. He created a pro bono clinic that meets with the public to understand their needs and develop custom plans that meet specific user goals with regard to all of these data. So the clinic is a very public-facing expression of what Jed does as a scholar. He's one of the foremost experts on digital afterlives, and he developed Facebook's legacy contact feature. It made Facebook's program one of the first major platforms to consider the succession planning in the operation of its business. So Jed's running this clinic with the help of some of our students who play an important role in doing the face-to-face meeting with people in the public. And through this work, they are learning to think critically about the technology platforms they use, the challenges of these technologies, both for themselves and for society at large. And this clinic formally got off the ground just last fall. It's already been the subject of some really great positive news coverage in the Denver metro area, and it's bringing a lot of attention to both the college and the importance of this kind of research work. So as you can imagine, I'm excited to see what kind of impact this clinic will have on the Boulder community and beyond. And now one last scholar whose work I want to talk about is my amazing colleague, Professor Sandra Rostovska. Sandra is a former documentary filmmaker who grew up amid the challenges of the Yugoslav wars, and the images and videos that she saw from the brutal fighting and genocide inspired her career. So understanding how those videos could be manipulated for political means, for legal means, this encouraged her skepticism about visual media, and it's inspired really interesting research into human rights. She's looked at everything from deepfakes in political messaging on social media to how videos might be presented in a courtroom to influence a jury. So for instance, by only showing a segment of a car chase or one particular angle from a dashboard cam, can jurors be manipulated into arriving at a predetermined, if not accurate, outcome? Well, of course they can. So outside of her extensive published work in this area, Sandra's also teaching students how different media can be used to advance human rights. She's worked with organizations in Colorado that perform work related to the environment, opioid abuse, and homelessness among veterans, and charged students to create social media campaigns that seek to advocate younger generations and inspire them to take action. So, what excites me most about this work is how vitally important it is, especially in terms of the news and information that we consume. And especially as traditional editorial gatekeepers are bypassed by new communication technologies, we have to develop skepticism about what we see and ask ourselves to slow down and question what's being pushed to our phones. Sandra's work also reminds us that this isn't just a new problem. Political campaigns and news organizations have been publicizing faked photos for almost as long as we've been able to share images. So, as you might imagine, it's thrilling to work with incredible faculty like these, and I thank you so much for your attention today. I hope that you've enjoyed learning a little bit more about the College of Media, Communication, and Information, and our work and how our scholars are influencing Boulder and Colorado and beyond. And I mentioned before that we're celebrating our 10th anniversary this year, pretty exciting. Couldn't be more excited about all of that we have accomplished since then, but I'm also equally excited that the next 10 years will bring even more exciting things. And later this month, we will be announcing a new name for the college, just to let you in on a little secret. It includes the word design, in recognition of both our new environmental design colleagues and the important role that design plays as an element of storytelling across the college. So the new name will become effective on July 1st when the integration between our two programs is complete. And then as the world continues to grapple with these kinds of questions around artificial intelligence and digital communication and sustainability, I really am confident that we have the faculty who will be at the forefront of seeking answers, and that our students and alumni are well equipped to really carry out lasting, meaningful change. So I hope you had a chance to learn a little bit, get a sense of what excites me about this work, why I think this is the best job in the world. And you know, we're really working to develop creative, effective solutions to a lot of the challenges we face as a society. So I'm happy to answer questions if you have any, and thanks so much for listening.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I have a question about kind of the last 10 years in media and journalism in this country. It feels like a very interesting time to have started a school specializing in media, and I wonder what role the educators have in kind of helping define what should be the separation between journalism and media and entertainment and truth and fact and fiction, and how much of the ethics is part of the program you're teaching these kids?
Yeah, that's a really wonderful question, and I know there are journalists in the room, colleagues, folks who've shared in this, and one of the things I always assure our students and others who have good questions like this is that at the core of our journalism education are what we might consider to be the very traditional legacy skill sets around ethics and fair reporting, how to source and prioritize information, and to gather sources from a wide range of locations, so that we are teaching our students how to be the very best at reporting as journalists. At the same time, we have recognized huge change in the industry and the way news and information is gathered and presented and represented, if you will. And that's had huge implications for the business model for most media companies. And one of the huge challenges, of course, is that the business model used to be based on essentially providing eyeballs to advertising. And, you know, it's been now, what, about 25 years, maybe a little longer, since the thing you would not have imagined would have had such a huge impact. But the creation of Craigslist was a great reason to see basically the disintegration of the classified ads that used to support newspapers. News organizations are no longer necessary for an advertiser to reach their own audience because everybody has social, everybody has their own website. And so it's really challenged the business model for journalism. I think it's important and interesting to know as well that we have faculty members in our journalism department who are doing their research on creating new business models for news organizations to survive and thrive. Because we do have a challenge across the country of far fewer newspapers operating today than they did in the past, to the point where we even now have areas that are designated as news deserts. And I think those are going to be continuing challenges. The optimism that comes for me is that there are also a range of exciting and new digital formats for delivering news. And of all places, Colorado, we have one of the most exciting media and journalism ecosystems here, with the creation of organizations like the Colorado Sun, for example, and support from programs like CoLab, which is designed to be a collaborator and bring people together who are engaged in reporting and sharing the news around local and regional, with a local and regional focus. So thanks for that question. It's one that we grapple with all the time, but I think what we've been doing in terms of delivering our curriculum is giving us students a combination of those very traditional skill sets, but also a vision about how technology is changing the work that they do and instilling in them a commitment to the ethics of journalism, which is part of the skill set, but also the mindset of being a journalist. And many of our students take those skills and mindset and apply them not always in traditional media, but they think like that, as almost every company today is a media company. So their work in communication is also translating that commitment and principle to, a fair and balanced reporting of things.
Thank you, and thank you for your fascinating presentation. I'm interested in how the decline in newspapers that you alluded to affects career paths in journalism. I have a feeling that long gone are the days where people did internships with the New York Times or Chicago Tribune, and that's how they got their start. What are the young kids doing nowadays who want to be conventional journalists? How do they get their start? Freelancing, or what do they do?
Well, they're still doing a lot of that work even before they graduate. Our students in journalism are required to do internships, and they find them and they learn a lot from them. We also have programs, we call them capstone courses, and we have a capstone in our college that's called CU News Corps. And in that class, which every student is required to take, they are working on a semester-long project, and sometimes longer than a semester, in collaboration with local media, regional media. And so we've had students partner with the Denver Post, partner with Rocky Mountain Public Media, and the stories that they create are having an impact because they're being created and then distributed and published in professional media organizations in the region. But we do encourage them to continue to do internships because we know how effective it is in a very high impact way, that they're learning in a very hands-on kind of experience, preparing them for traditional media jobs, but also, as I was saying a little bit in response to this other question, they're taking that mindset, and there are so many opportunities for them that are not always necessarily in what we would think of as traditional media, but that are available to them in almost any company. Is like, we need to do podcasts, we need to create a website that has important and meaningful content for our community, if it's in government, if it's in nonprofits. So there are a lot of our students who develop that skill set and mindset, which I think both are important, because the mindset is what helps you understand an ethical principle of just because we can do this doesn't mean we necessarily should do this. And that ethical preparation and training prepares students not just for traditional journalism jobs, which are still there, thankfully, in lots of different places, and in some places even more opportunities in a digital format than in some of the more traditional print formats that we might think of in the past. But it also means they bring that thinking to every place they are. So they're acolytes, if you will, for good journalism and good reporting.
Hi, down here. So literally 2 hours ago, I was doing the Board of Regents meeting. And
I'm sorry, can you say that?
literally 2 hours ago, I was doing the Board of Regents meeting, and Sandra was there. She was talking about deepfakes and all that stuff, and she brought up a good point, that something I've always thought of, but she articulated it in words I've never really thought about, that our minds take in all these senses, but our sight is the one we trust the most. So when we see a deepfake or an AI image, some people just automatically assume that that's what they believe because that's what they see. So I was wondering to just get your thoughts about how we could build better education for media and tech literacy just throughout just throughout the world and throughout everybody?
Oh, that is such a great question. Well, I think one of the ways, and it's so cool that you just saw her, and I'm so sorry you had to be at a Board of Regents meeting, but I'm glad you finally made it to Rotary, right? This is good. But what I think is so interesting about your question is, yes, we have so many more ways to visually experience the world now. And so one of the things that I'll give as an example is that in the college, we have something called the Immersive Media Lab, and it's an incredibly funded program. The Hearst Foundation has funded us for about almost 10 years, at least 6 years, maybe 8, to create a space where we are using 360-degree photo lenses and creating the experiences of virtual reality and augmented reality. And this is an extension of our journalism program. It's something that's in service to the whole college and actually across the campus. We're starting to see partnerships with business and other parts of the campus because we're the innovators that created this space, but allows people to experience a space in a way that you might not have otherwise. You're going to see and experience it. A really kind of chilling example is that one of our graduate students, who is originally from Gaza, created a document before he was our grad student, using 360 lenses across his beautiful country, and showed all these beautiful buildings and gardens and just the setting. We know what's happened in Gaza in the last 18 months. He has this document that has now become it's an artifact of something that isn't there anymore, but if you want to know what's been lost, you could put on a VR headset and you go like this and you are there. And when he was shooting this, it was because he wanted to capture the beauty of his country and what it's become because of results of what's happened in the world. It's maybe the only digital record that can be experienced of what's been lost. And to me, that's one of the reasons we help our students have both the ability to set up a camera and how to shoot and do all these things, but what is the story that you want to tell? What's compelling and important is, how can I connect with people? How can I give them an insight into my world? And often it is visually. Often it's with words. Words are powerful. Poetry is powerful. There are a number of ways to tell a story, lots of different modes of communication. But a very powerful way to do that is visually. And so one of the reasons the college was founded 10 years ago was to more carefully integrate this new sort of digital skill set into the curriculum of the college. And so if you were around 10 years ago, you might know that it was the former School of Journalism and the Department of Communication that came together to create the new college, and then new departments were created around information science and the ability to create documentary films and other kinds of immersive experiences through critical media practices. And so and now environmental design. So I think together, all of those disciplines that are connected and adjacent to each other give our students the chance to develop skills, deep skills in one area, broad skills in the other areas, and better able to tell those kinds of stories that you're asking about. So thanks for that good question.
Thank you, Dean Bergen, for being our speaker today. I know personally, having been your dean colleague in the past, and we all know how busy you are as the founding dean and longtime dean of CMCI, so we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today and talk with us about this critically important topic. Dean Bergen, you may be aware that Rotary International has been a worldwide leader in helping to eradicate polio from the face of the earth. From nearly 150 countries with epidemics down to just 2 nations today with troubling numbers, we've really had an impact. And in appreciation of you being with us today, the Boulder Rotary Club will be donating 100 doses of Polio Plus vaccine in your name to this effort. So thank you for being with us.
Thank you
and
so
Go
much.
Buffs!
Go Buffs! And I want to be recruiting these 2 young men you have here from Italy and Spain. You can stay in this country even longer if you become CMCI students, so let's talk. Thank you so much.